some of you want to be alumni from Rice. And of course, shares insights on, key global trends and, most important, create professional relationship, okay? And for us, that's, the organizing team, this event matter because first, rapid changes are occurring in the energy and technology world. There is a transformation of the workforce. We need to keep learning, and there is a very important thing is, professional and personal networking. Our goal tonight is exchange ideas, identify opportunities between, the other people that probably sit close to you, and build connection and foster collaboration. This event is not just about listening. So the idea is for some of the alumni members that, moved to Houston or to the Woodlands, to Katy many years ago or 2 weeks ago, but you don't know that that person was living very close to you. So it's moment to reconnect or to connect. I mean, meet new professional and start conversation, We, after this presentation, we will have a kind of networking meeting space on the other side of the, when you can see the garden. Okay, so this tonight is just the beginning. Sorry that I have some kind of problem with the technology. And this is the first organization's event that we want to bring. Our goal is expand the network and, of course, to have very strong institutional relationship. And, of course, at the end, create long-term impact result. Okay, our agenda tonight will be, our first guest is Michel Coney, that is the Executive Education in Rice. So he will be talking with you about what are the opportunities that you can have here in Rice. So Michael, welcome, and the floor is yours.
I'm honored to be invited tonight to address such a fantastic group of leaders and business professionals. Welcome to our campus. It is a little quiet here. Students are sort of in exam, so if you want to see a little hustle and bustle, it's actually the library. We love our undergrads. We call them the lovely nerds. They are lovely people, but man, are they nerds. They're working hard. They really do. So Michael Koenig, I'm an associate dean at the Jones Graduate School of Business. And for those of you who don't know, we also are now the Verani Undergrad School of Business. So that's a relatively recent addition to the business school. We had a minor for decades, but you have to get sort of approval from the faculty at Rice. It's a very faculty-driven, faculty governance organization. And until there was some agreement that they were going to grow the undergrad population, you can imagine all the other divisions were not so excited about a business degree because it's a net gain for us, but it's coming from their majors. So we finally got that passed, and we do have undergrads now. So as associate dean, I have a role across the organization, both credit and non-credit. It's innovation initiatives. And I think about that at the high level around digital innovation. What are our capabilities now? What do they need to be? How does that fit in our strategy? How do we leverage that to extend and expand the reach of the school? It's also global opportunities and global partnerships. How do we make sure that our students, our faculty, and our key stakeholders have opportunities to take outside of the U.S. and have those experiences to be global leaders and to network and build that professional network? And the last piece is experiential. It's about more and more opportunities for folks not just to learn what we know about the sciences and disciplines of business, but put it to use and really make it part of practice. And that's a little bit where this role of executive director comes in. So if that's my horizontal role across credit and non-credit as part of the leadership team, I have this vertical role. I'm the CEO of executive education. Executive education is a business inside the business school from start to finish. We run it all. We leverage all the same, most senior faculty actually for executive education that teach across the MBA, have the PhDs, and even now teaching the undergrads. But they're hand-selected for various reasons I'll talk about. So for those of you who don't know, Exec Ed has a pretty important strategic role in any great business school. A number of reasons why. One, it is part of the core academic mission. These are some of the most senior faculty in their teaching. It's not a credit-bearing course. It's an Exec Ed non-credit certificate, but it's very important to get those engagements. We are able very quickly, because we are non-credit, to grab new research, new content from those faculty and get it to market quickly and test it out. Whereas if I wanted a credit-bearing course, I've got internal faculty, the school, probably the faculty senate to get anything approved. Very long process. For us, we can just bring it to market and test it out, see if it impacts practice, see if that research and that discipline impacts practice. New delivery models, that's sort of leveraging those online opportunities. How do we hybridize that? How do we expand our reach through the digital content delivery? It really does extend our reach and our brand, and we know our impact through executive education. One that people don't think about much is that we have faculty who are researching, and then they're teaching across a whole slew of programs. Exec Ed and the things that we do allows them to really deeply engage with leaders from multiple industries. And I'll talk a little bit about the custom work we do, actually dig very deeply down into a company and understand it very well. That means they're learning, and they're learning about their content and their practice from multiple industries with leaders. What they learn is they have these conversations with a class like a group like this, they're bringing back in, and it makes our degree programs more content rich, more practical, and more time. So Exec Ed plays that role, that sort of virtuous cycle, to continually make sure faculty are banging up against leaders in different practices. It's a pipeline for the graduate degrees. People come in, they haven't been to school for a long time. They love that engagement, that facilitated learning that executive ed is, and that's what an MBA is too. Maybe they're coming to the executive MBA, maybe they're coming to the professional MBA, we have lots of formats. And it is a reason to try to create some net revenue to be reinvested in the school, for the school for new faculty lines. Do we need faculty who have some expertise in AI and some of these disciplines? We're probably going to need to get some PhDs for some of that, right? If you really want to be on the leading edge. So Rice Business is a full business school from a robust PhD program. Those PhDs now are going to some of the best schools when they graduate from us. That's a great sign. We have grown in the last 10 years, almost 190% in the graduate degree programs. We now have over 800 MBAs active across the 2 years and the 6 formats, which are really scattered. We have one MBA degree, but 6 different formats: executive MBA, professional weekend MBA. We have a hybrid, which only meets once a month, which allows people who may want to fly in once a month for that work and then do online in between. We have a mostly online MBA now, where it's live online, couple residencies. Every one of those formats has a global course too, so they go out of the US. Those courses. So we have graduated more MBAs at UT, and now we're continuing to grow. We talked a little bit about the undergrad major. We went from not having a major 5 years ago to be the second most popular major on campus. So real great growth there. So let me talk a little bit about the structure of Exec Ed for us. There's really 2 major parts of our portfolio, but I'll break one in half. One is custom work. So that's an organization that has challenges or opportunities. We see that we have faculty who have expertise, both in research, teaching, and practice. We get them embedded with that company. Oftentimes it's members of the C-suite and the learning and development team that we're working with. We create something and we deliver it when they want it, where they want it, how they want it. But it's a longer term relationship because we're all investing in the initial design. And so then you want to deliver that to multiple cohorts over time and also stretch and spread the impact of that. We have something that's part of the custom, but we call partnerships. And it's really partnerships with executive education that allows us to extend our reach maybe to a geographic area where we don't have a brand or the resources. It could also be into an industry maybe that we don't have. We'll talk about a couple of examples really quickly about that. So in the last piece is our open enrollment course. So that's the individual courses on important subjects. The faculty are teaching individual small teams come 3 days, 4 days. The longest one we have is 2 weeks. Those are multi-industry folks in the classroom. So that's a different conversation than custom, where it's all part of one big company. These are people who are all leaders in their different parts, but they have different positions, different educational backgrounds, different parts of the world, different industries, and that creates a very different dynamic in the classroom. I don't know about you, but I've been in higher ed a long time. I do higher ed conferences, I read higher ed research papers, I meet with a lot of people who are my friends in college from higher ed. It's really refreshing to get in and have a very deep dialogue with people who are thinking very differently, because their industries are different. Their challenges may be the same, but they may have interesting, creative ways to think about that. And that open enrollment classroom, very powerful because of that. So I'll give you a couple examples on custom just to get a sense of it. We've now run for almost 6 years the physician leadership program for Houston Methodist, our neighbors over here at the Texas Medical Center. They take applications internally in the fall from physicians who want to go through this 6-month program. They select a cohort of 30 top physician leaders. So they're already top physicians, but they're finding themselves in leadership positions. And now they're coming to Rice as part of this custom program to sort of put together the business knowledge with the medical knowledge related to enterprise. That's a deep custom program, and it's not just our faculty. For example, last weekend, we had the module on finance and accounting. It was kicked off by the CFO. The CFO of Houston Methodist comes in, the budget officer, Houston Methodist comes in and really puts all of that learning in context. So that's custom is a true partnership in those. We do Phillips 66 leadership programs for everybody who reports into the C-suite. So that sort of second layer of executives. And they do that basically creating content in most of the business disciplines, but within the context of Phillips 66, where they're experts in there. But what they're also doing, because Houston is full of brilliant technical people, plenty of business people, but lots of really, really technical people who found themselves in leadership positions. So coming in and really understanding, for example, finance and accounting is the language of business. And if you don't understand the language of business, it's a foreign language. And it's hard to have this conversation. So doing that, putting it in the context, sort of evening out the learning in a company so that people have the right way to communicate, that they have similar frameworks and they know best practices and how to manage talent. So deep programs like that. And then the partnerships, we have a partnership with the Nahuatl University in Mexico City. We don't have we have a decent reputation in Mexico, but we don't have the facilities or the brand down there. So working with them, we can support them and they come up here for programs and they can support us if we can go down there and do joint programs in that region. We also have a group called Leadership Partners for Texas Education. So they work in the secondary school leadership district and school system leadership. We don't have a brand there and we don't have any knowledge of the specifics of the school systems. So they bring that to the table, we bring the business and we create a program together so that those teachers, those school system leaders are really learning the best practices across business and putting that to improve schools and their outcomes for the kids. So that's kind of a sense of the custom stuff. We'll talk a little bit about open enrollment. Now, I said, Tina, we're going to be at dinner time. Maybe I should hand out a menu.
It's called DoorDash.
So maybe take those and pass them down. So when we think about our menu of open enrollment programs that we run throughout the year, different length, different topics. As I mentioned before, hand-selected, the most senior faculty who are great researchers in the discipline, they're great teachers and facilitators of those discussions in the classroom, but they also probably consult and work with industries even deeper than when they do custom events. So they're some of the best who are very top business school to begin with. So we sort of think of it almost like a Michelin meal, right? It's really designed to be absolutely perfect. The service and support that we provide the faculty and you as an executive ed cohort participant is superb. She can really focus on what's going on in that classroom and also building those relationships, those professional personal relationships, which get in the executive program sometimes are what lasts the longest and have the most meaning. So you can see, I'll go through really quickly and then I'll turn this over. The Rice Advanced Management Program is essentially a fantastic program to cut across in just 2 weeks most of the core disciplines of business in a very accelerated executive format and a classroom full of multiple industry leaders. So lots of, if you don't have time for the 2-year MBA, we love people to come get our executive MBA. This is a great option to get a feel and a touch for all of those. There's a set you can see of those leadership programs. I'm going to call out one, the Executive Leadership for Women program. We're super proud of that. When I got here, we had about 28% women in the executive classroom last year. Very blended now. And this was a set of women leaders who are alumni coming to me and saying, we need to do more than just have a blended classroom. There are particular issues here, topics that are really powerful to teach to women. So we worked with them, we did some workshops, we did a lot of work, we put 4 fantastic faculty together that covered the topics that were identified. And so we now have a 4-day program that will start in mid-May, built up so quickly that we already had a full one on the books for the fall semester. So we're really excited about that. Also, last week, I launched a program that you see here in that group called Global Leadership Program in Paris. The topics are, it's going to be the team, who's a global economist, will be the faculty, that's Peter Rodriguez. Will be hosted in the Rice Paris Global Center, which is located in the Moderado, lovely location. Probably only have about 20 seats, but the topics are around international energy, investment, and innovation. We will spend half a day at the International Energy Agency. We'll bring in folks from NG, Citibank's global investment group for natural resources and sustainable resources coming in. So fantastic opportunity to be part of the global leadership team, really learning about how the world thinks about and is struggling right now with energy and geopolitics and all that stuff. In the strategy and innovation programs, I want to call out another new one at the very bottom. It's called From Business Intelligence to Artificial Intelligence. Data-driven decision-making with agentic AI. World-class faculty member just won a very large international teaching, teaching award in finance and AI. Let's put this together, and it's 8 90-minute over the lunch hour live sessions in a sandbox you build so people can learn not just what AI is, but actually practice using it and creating agents to be a part of that. So it's a practice phase. For business professionals, no tech needed. Just come in and really understand how it works and start to begin thinking about it, use it to your own benefit, to your team's benefit, maybe with your company. And then you can see a few of those self-paced on there. Those are some really top quality self-paced online business courses that we. So that's the menu. I don't know about you, but I'm hungry. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Well, everybody knows where Michael works and what are the options that you have, okay? So remember, never learning. I mean, you can never stop learning, you know, every day you need to learn something. Sorry? Exactly. Okay, perfect. Well, our second speaker is Sonia Clayton. Sonia is a leader in the energy transitions area. And she will be talking about how the work is changing, you know, right now and in the next future. And so it's a pleasure for us to have Sonia tonight. Sonia.
Okay, can everybody hear me? Do I need to speak louder? We're good. All right, great. Thank you. Thank you. Well, my name is Sonia Clayton, and it's truly an honor and a pleasure for me to be here today. Thank you. You guys are a very warm group. And not only that, but I understand you're Venezuelans, and so I consider myself very Venezuelan as well. I was actually born in Colombia, Venezuelan parents. My father abandoned my family when I was 18 months old, and we survived the narco traffic war for 8 years in Colombia. So if you have seen the movie Narcos, that was the little girl in the barrio, and that was me. And miraculously, we actually were able to enter Venezuela because my mother's nationality. So I grew up in Venezuela I came to Venezuela when I was almost 11 years old. I grew up in extreme poverty in Colombia and in extreme poverty in Venezuela. In both countries, though, I had the marvelous opportunity to witness the wonderful benefits that America can bring to anybody in that region. And number one, in Colombia, we were benefited by the goodness of missionaries, military personnel, and people that came to our country to aid us, to help us, who cared to care about us. And that, to me, was amazing. As an 8-year-old, I remember the first recollection of the American flag was actually in a 50-pound bag of wheat that arrived to a Catholic church, and we went there to pick up our meals. And I asked my mother, what is that? It has red, white, and blue. She said, yeah, that's the American flag. And I said, oh, and what is America? That's the best country in the world. I want to go there. She says, daughter, only the rich ones go there. Well, 25 years later, I was able to come to America, and I came here with $50 in my pocket. And my claim to fame is that I created a multi-million-dollar operation, the first virtual technology company that was created 25 years ago in the United States. I actually opened it in New York and eventually established the operation in Houston. We will grow up to 36 countries. We start probably the largest SAP implementations in the world. And that brought us into the oil and gas industry. So that's why I'm here. And I want to give a round of applause to my Director of Operations, Glenn Booker, who has been with me with 22 years now. So thank you, Glenn, for being so good to us and working. So just to tell you a little bit about my career now, or what I'm doing now, when virtual intelligence providers grew up to be a big girl in the market, we decided that we were going to be good to the community, that once was good to me as a child. So I created 4 nonprofit organizations. One helps little girls in education. And I believe in helping Latina girls. As Latina girls, we have the highest registration ratio in college. That means we want to be educated women. We want to be capable women, and we have the potential to do so. But the reality of it is we are poor people in the majority because we come as immigrants. We leave everything behind and you start all over. So that is a level of poverty. And so they register in college, we have the highest dropout ratio as well. So I get very involved with little girls. I like to motivate them. I like to tell them my story. Because if I was on the other side of the tracks at one time, it was education that brought me to where I am. This is the catalyzer. And I was in the best country in the world to make it happen. So there you go. God bless America. Currently, I work with the United Nations. I am an ambassador of the energy transition representing the United States. I also work with Harvard Business School. I'm a certified negotiator for Harvard. So I get involved in the largest negotiations, acquisitions, mergers that happen when one oil company buys another one. I get invited and I get a little bit of everything in there. So I also work with several nonprofit organizations, several colleges and universities. And I am an advisor to CEOs in the region. This presentation, I have to make a formal disclosure, was being given to the Department of Energy, McKinsey, Harvard Business School, the United Nations Workforce Task, and I hope that you learned something today. What is happening today is we are living, I cannot move, right? So the energy transition is at a very crucial point. You hear a lot about AI, the new lingo everywhere, right? Well, what is AI and what is really happening? And a lot of people don't understand what's really happening because what is going on is we're at a very crucial moment in history. It has never happened before. You heard about the first industrial revolution, you heard about the second industrial revolution, the third industrial revolution, and now we are here. We heard about this fourth industrial revolution. What is that all about? Well, it's the incoming of the most advanced technologies in software development. So software moves the world. And now the most sophisticated form of software is called AI. So you heard AI. Well, AI has been around for a long time. When Google opened operations for the first time, and that was the first search engine, but guess what that was? AI. So it's nothing new. When you decided that you were going to get the Google Translate, when you're translating word after word and you're speaking another language and you think you're really cool emailing somebody in Portuguese or in French, well, that's AI. Why? It's a repetitive pattern, an algorithm that was able to be copied by Google to create or repetitious behaviors, simple routine behaviors that this software algorithm can just mimic as a routine, as a process. But what is changing from that era to now, because Google is not new, right? It's something called agentic AI. And agentic AI is now the autonomous form of AI that has a semi-conscious behavior. So I can ask it to do certain things. That's when you open ChatGPT, you can have a conversation. I can fight with ChatGPT, like if I fight with my husband, it's fantastic. So that's, ladies, that's a great way to vent yourself out there. So anyway, that is Industry 5.0. But industry used to be Industry 4.0. Industry 5.0 right now is the human in the loop. Human versus machine versus learning, deep learning behaviors. So what is happening simultaneously at energy? Energy has come out with the new revolution of the renewable energy. So we are right at the intersection, at that point of inflection where an axis crosses a vertical and a horizontal line. And that is what's causing all this unemployment, all this commotion, all this confusion, and people don't know what to do. Governments don't know what to do. That's why they come in the United Nations. Come and talk to us, because I'm going from Switzerland to Canada to Paraguay to Argentina, and governments are asking me, what is the recipe? Well, the recipe is in Houston. It's us. So this is super important. The consolidation of digitalization is happening. So consolidation of systems, processes, consolidation of technologies. We're also consolidating Houston operations, and Houston is positioning itself as the capital of oil, the capital of energy, and the capital of technology of the world. Houston is at the center of that whole intersection, yet we're losing jobs. Since 2020, we have lost 1.8 million jobs in energy alone, in oil and gas, petrochemicals specifically. And we will see why. And it's basically due to consolidation of all these very large firms, and you hear that on the news all the time. Talent-driven transition. Why? It's not just talent. Oh, this thing's in a different page. No, we're in the right page. So talent-driven transition means that people with the AI talent, people with the new renewable technologies talent are moving forward. But what's happening with the rest? Are you staying stagnant? Are you staying behind? Correct? We're seeing that a lot. Also, the core risk is that there's a lot of talent displacement. I just gave you a figure, 1.8 million jobs. Not just jobs lost, but jobs reconfigured, jobs redesigned, jobs that are simply disappearing. Used to be that you could walk into a McDonald's or Taco Bell and you could order from a guy. Now they send you to the machine. What happened with those two guys at the counter? Lost their job, right? That's just a simple example. But this goes from Taco Bell all the way to the corporate headquarters of the largest corporations in the world. So the need for corporate leadership and re-engagement is super important at this point. So the core thesis of my presentation to the United Nations, to Harvard Business School, and to all these nations across the world is the energy transition, and the energy transition requires human capital reconfiguration. Not only energy, but also the systems and the processes that come with it, which is technology. So skills are evolving faster than job structures. So an example, I've been involved as an advisor to Coca-Cola Company, talking to the CEO and telling them this is what you could merge and this is what you could combine and this and that. And so he finally says, the skills are evolving so fast that I don't even know where I can place my people. As a CEO, I cannot make the decision because the technology is emerging so fast. So if I build an AI bot today, that AI bot will be obsolete in 3 weeks. It's not good anymore. This is how fast, this is the dynamic that we are experiencing right now. So the value shifting from legacy, let's say you used to be a geophysicist, you used to be a geoscientist for ExxonMobil. That's what we call legacy knowledge. So now that legacy knowledge has to convert into a hybrid knowledge. I have created an organization, it's called Global Energy Transition. It's the first organization in the world that seeks to protect the employee in this equation. Because the governments talk about, oh yeah, we're gonna move on with renewables. And yes, wind and solar, and this is so cool and so cute. And yeah, we're gonna take from column A and put them in column B. We just take all these geologists and geophysicists and we just take them here into the windmills. Comparable? Not even close. A geologist and a geophysicist, a geoscientist makes 150,000, 200,000 a year. They're normally masters and PhDs. What am I going to do with that guy in a wind farm? You tell me that. Are you going to pay him the kind of money that you were making? Absolutely not. But this is government bluff. In the previous administration, this was big. Everything was subsidized. 2,500 companies were created in energy just in the Houston area. When I created my nonprofit, I said, okay, I'm going to hold my candle to the feet of the government and I'm going to go to all of them and I'm going to ask them to give me jobs. I will visit one today. 3 weeks later, I came back and the whole thing was just a sign on the wall. They had disappeared. Why? They were being moved by subsidies of the government that were saying, I'll give you $200,000. You open a shop and you call yourself an emerging renewable company. Only one company stands with us today. It's called EDP Renewables. As a matter of fact, they donated to my foundation $10,000 last week, and they stand with us. So not everything that shines is gold. Don't let the government tell you stories, because that was the biggest lie I have ever seen in history. The other thing is, I noticed that the changing aspect of the structural shift in energy and technology is accelerating capital. So you have, on one side, you have these BlackRock investors that invest in the largest projects in the world. They say, yeah, I want to invest AI, I want to invest. Oh yeah, hydro electric. Oh, I want to invest in, oh yeah, I would like to invest in mines or in minerals. Oh yeah, I would like to, so the investments are coming. Are they coming to the traditional jobs? No. They're coming to all these new technologies that generate energy. I want to invest in data centers. Oh, yes, I want to invest in utilities because they are going to be in high demand. Supporting all these data centers that every time you click your telephone, generate a number of gigawatts somewhere else across the world or across the state. Texas and Virginia are the largest producers of data centers projected between now and 2030. We will produce so much energy here. I was just with I work with Governor Abbott, and I was just down in Port Arthur last week and inaugurating 2 great plants that will have the capability to power the entire state of Texas just from one plant only. So that's where the investments are going. Are they going into education? No. Are they going into commercialization? No. Are they going into airlines? No. The investments are coming to this type of technologies. Reorganizing the workforce ecosystem is super important because we have what we call the legacy skill sets. And now we have to revamp everybody, re-educate everybody. As a matter of fact, my organization just started a partnership with Rice University. Thank you for the partnership. We'll soon be getting scholarships to educate people in Rice so you guys can come up to speed if you feel that you're being left behind. But it starts with you and with a humble recognition that you may be behind. So don't be too proud, don't be too cocky, don't be so cool that you don't want to upskill. This is the most important moment in history to reskill. We also see a tremendous decline in linear career path. You used to be, oh, well, I'm the supervisor, and now I'm a manager, and I'm the senior manager, senior director. Done. That doesn't happen anymore. Why? Virtualization. You work from wherever you want to. COVID changed a lot of models as well. But at the same time, that goes along with the demand of knowledge, and knowledge is technology, and technology is agentic AI. The more you know about it, the more qualified you are. So you no longer get promoted because you were here for 30 years. You will get promoted for what you know. Your capacity to make decisions in front of agentic AI, that's what we call the human in the loop, is what will make the difference. It's no longer, oh, I've been here 30 years and, you know, I'll be the senior, whatever. No, it's gone. So emerging hybrid energy jobs, how much time I have? 5 more minutes. Okay, I'll go through this quickly. Okay, I just explained a lot of this. This is the largest hub in the United States for education and economy in terms of energy. It's a magnet for financial investment. Technical migration dynamics, super important. That means you have to come up to speed with education, learn things like engineering and trades and functions of or ESG functions. Look into talent following capital investments. So if you see a capital investment in energy, make sure you follow those corporations that are receiving capital investments and look for work in there. Geographic concentration is super important because everybody's coming to Houston. Everybody's saying, oh yeah, golden mines in Houston, right? So golden mines in Houston, everybody's coming here for work. So legacy role, remember, is experiencing compression. This means that what used to be your old job is probably being minimized and synthesized by the fact that AI is taking part of this job. What is needed? Cross-functional system thinking people. So it's not just one way, the way that you think, but it's a cross-functional utility in your brain. Digital AI and legacy is super important. You have to be able to bring your experiences from the legacy knowledge you have and merge them with AI and create a new component of thinking. Emission carbon systems is important. People want new technologies in energy. And then data analytics capabilities. You should be able to take a data analytics course in Rice University at least. Corporate implications, workforce strategy is a whole different mess right now. People don't even know how to create it or how to get it going. HR must adapt to the new scenario. I was going to tell you something here about talent displacement and risk. I saw recently, I was invited to have a conversation with the CEO of Moderna and the CEO of Coca-Cola to talk about how we could merge two forms of departments that have been traditional, the IT department and the HR department. IT has become so powerful because of AI that now they're merging HR or folding HR under IT. So now it's the IT HRS department. So bottom line, the corporate responsibility is the responsibility of every corporation in the world. They are now getting engaged. This is overwhelming for them. They don't even know where they're going. So everybody's learning in this process. Accelerated hiring pipelines are happening in certain dimensions, but people are not even prepared to interview. So advocacy is important. It's something called a just transition. It means that we should, as citizens, as community members, as politicians, as instructors, professors, sorry, this thing is going everywhere. We should advocate for not letting people behind. At the end of the day, this is a fad that will come down. The hype will come down when they realize that AI cannot run the whole thing automatically and that they still need humans in the loop. But that will take a while. In the meantime, we're living through the disruption, okay? I will stop right here with the strategic recommendation for you guys. Be willing to scale, build, partner, integrate, and exercise human judgment. Anybody who is capable of making decisions is capable of being successful in the upcoming world. So I talk a lot about the human in the loop. If you're able to recognize patterns, their AI recognizes patterns, language behaviors that are technical behaviors, but agile data processes is also under their domain. But at the end of the day, it's the people that will make the final decisions on what is produced via agentic AI. Here's my contact information, and thank you so much for your time.
Well, give me 5 minutes, please, because I'm in one of the Morphe again. Who is it? It's the, okay, well, please. Okay, well, let's. Sonia. Well, let's, please, our next speaker is Francisco Monaldi. Francisco Monaldi, I think he doesn't need an introduction. He's an expert in oil and gas and Latin American business. Thanks to be here tonight.
Thank you very much, Glenn. Please let me know when I have 5 minutes so that. Okay, so I can use this.
Yeah.
Okay, so Sonia told you a lot about the massive changes that are happening in the world in terms of the world of energy, in terms of technology, both in the energy transition and in AI, etc. I'm gonna tell you about the things that haven't changed that much, in the sense that, you know, geopolitics, you know, which has been again and again a big factor in the energy industry, and fossil fuels, which are still a pretty important part of the energy mix and will continue to be for a while. Know that all these changes are not affecting, of course, the oil industry too. So first thing, just to give you an idea, the demand of oil has been slowing down, but it has, in absolute terms, it has grown more in the last 20 years than in the 20 years before. So the oil industry is still a pretty sort of healthy, let's put it, industry in many ways. And we, of course, have heard during the period of, you know, particularly after COVID, but also, of course, since the climate goals have become much more urgent in the international community, that there's going to be a peak of demand. But in reality, we don't know exactly when it's happening. And you probably have seen the International Energy Agency recently published a new scenario in which actually by 2050, oil demand is higher than today. So, of course, there are different scenarios, and it's very hard to predict the future. I mean, it's even hard to predict the next 3 months in the oil market. So, so we have to consider these different scenarios, but it's important to look at, you know, what would happen in case, you know, oil demand doesn't fall as fast as the net zero scenarios, for example, which are mostly aspirational scenarios, would lead us to think. By the way, I should have started saying that this event is very special for me in that I am both connected to IESA. I'm still a professor at IESA. Virtually, I don't go to Venezuela, but do it online, and I do it a lot. And of course, there is a lot of excitement which was happening down there. And of course, I teach here at Rice. I'm the director of the Latin American Energy Program at the Baker Institute, and I teach in the Master in Energy Economics. I occasionally teach at the business school, including the program that Michael mentioned with Anáhuac University in Mexico. And so I am really glad that both institutions, in a way, are being connected by this event. And I thank Glenn for organizing it and inviting me. And I think the business school and the office that Agustina heads do an amazing job, and I would really like you to get involved in some way or another with both. So besides that, let me tell you a little bit about where has oil demand grown and where it has fallen, and same for supply. There are two very impactful stylized facts that you can see here about the about this century of oil demand and supply. The first one, of course, is that demand has mostly grown in Asia and in China by far, right? On the left side, you can see that the red is Asia, and China is, of course, the biggest source of growth. That is changing. China's demand is slowing down, so that's one of the sources of less growth in oil demand. But as you can see in the developed rich countries, including the US, but the richest European countries and Japan, demand of oil has actually been going down. And that is partly because of the energy intensity of GDP, and the oil intensity of GDP goes down as countries get richer, because countries, as they become much richer, they do less things that are material, and they do a lot of services and things that require less energy, but also, of course, because they outsource a lot of the things to other countries, and also because they become much more efficient in the use of energy and of oil. On the supply side, notice that the big giant in the room is the United States. In fact, it's so amazing that basically you think, what would have happened if China was growing at that pace and the shale revolution had not happened? You know, it's almost like a very interesting counterfactual. I mean, the price of oil probably would have significantly increased with that shift in demand without the additional supply. And if you see, basically, so is Canada, the US, which are two very special countries in that they have the most attractive regulatory environments for the oil industry in many ways. And then, of course, the usual suspects, the OPEC Gulf countries that have the lowest cost on earth and have the largest reserves. But notice the ones who have gone down. You see there are two types of countries, basically. Those who run out of oil, like the North Sea, and those who had very bad above ground situations, right? Either civil wars, or in the case of Venezuela, sadly, it wasn't a civil war, it was a really bad regime and government. So what is happening now? I will not go into the details, but as you know, there is a massive energy crisis in terms of the oil side that we had not seen. I mean, in fact, this disruption is so big that we haven't seen anything like this since the Second World War, not even, the 1970s, etc. Of course, the world is less dependent on oil than it was in the 1970s, for example, or in the 1950s. But the Strait of Hormuz is a crisis that is not just about oil. It's also about LNG, 20% of the world oil, 20% of the world LNG, a lot of the petrochemicals, things that we didn't even know, that helium, most of the helium was produced, in that area. And now, technology companies in Taiwan are desperate because they don't have helium. So this made the world remind again about the importance of national security, about issues that are sort of old-fashioned geopolitical issues, right? The supply chains that the world had developed over the years that were all about efficiency, all of a sudden people are considering, well, but what about security? And what about resiliency? And what about redundancy? Because this is very, very costly for many countries. And sadly, I think the consequences of this are going to be lasting, because it's not just the disruption, it's the fact that Iran learned that we all learned, sadly, that Iran has control of our aorta, and that they can use that power, that we all thought that it was too big to fail, that this couldn't happen, that China and the US would not allow it. But it turns out that the world is very asymmetric, and you can, with a little drone or even like a little remotely controlled boat, you can disrupt massively one of these. A lot of things are going to happen, like a lot of pipelines are going to be built to avoid the Strait of Hormuz. So in the long run, a lot of this power of Iran will be reduced. But at the same time, the risk that this showed how the world economy could be so vulnerable to this. And by the way, we haven't seen nothing yet. There are plenty of things that we will see in the next few months in terms of the supply chain problems that this is bringing all over the world. And so, but not to get that much. And of course, this is so impactful that we don't know what this will produce also in the demand, on the demand side. This could bring, if the prices are high for too long, this will bring demand destruction of oil. And this will accelerate the energy transition in some countries because of issues of energy security. They will try to, become more independent from fossil fuels. But as I mentioned in the scenarios, and this is not even a scenario, this is Rice a scenario in which not even the demand stays at a higher level in 2050 than today. This is a scenario with a decline in demand because of the energy transition, and they still see a gap in the supply from non-OPEC countries that will give OPEC a tremendous power. In fact, we had a seminar at the Baker Institute with experts from OPEC, International Energy Agency, Rystad, Woodmac, S&P, everybody. And the main conclusion was there is a scenario in which we have a serious problem with the oil market in the next 10 years, because there is a gap of 10 million barrels per day of the potential production. And I'm telling you all this because South America, and this is sort of what I want to talk about, could play a massive role in filling this gap. And in particular, of course, Venezuela, but also Brazil, Guyana, and Argentina will potentially play a role. A big part of the story is offshore South America. So this is not just what had been discovered, but there is additional potential in Guyana, in the equatorial margin of Brazil, that they are going to start exploring. Of course, in the already explored areas of Brazil, and even there is some potential in Uruguay and Argentina. But then you have, of course, the shale in Argentina, the only place outside of the United States in which there is sort of a small shale revolution happening is Argentina. And so a lot of the knowledge and the know-how and the expertise of Texas will play a big role in developing the Argentinian resources. And of course, Argentina seems to be, at least for a while, being able to manage their macroeconomy, and hopefully, it's not going to be a mess again. I'm half Argentinian, so I unfortunately, two of my dear countries have been in a lot of turmoil over the years. But just to illustrate how much Latin America has underperformed for a long time. In 2008, Latin America, that has a bigger resource base than the US plus Canada, was producing 10.5 million barrels of oil. This is all liquids. So this includes, condensates and liquids from natural gas. So Latin America produced more than the US plus Canada. That was in the middle of a massive oil boom, and Latin America didn't take advantage of it at all. But in fact, production slightly declined despite tremendous opportunity for growth. Why? Because of resource nationalism, expropriations, all the things that we know that happened in that period in Venezuela, Ecuador, Bolivia, Argentina, etc. Even Brazil, which is the most successful country in the region, should have grown much faster than they did. But at least they kept their institutional framework pretty good. At the same time, in the US and Canada, there was a revolution. We, of course, focus in the US because it was much more spectacular, but in Canada, in the extra heavy oil, in the Canadian tar sands, there was also a massive growth in the oil sector. And as you can see here, the 1 out of every 4 barrels in the world of liquids, because a lot of condensates are being produced in the United States. The US produces 13 million barrels of crude, but it produces, I think, 6 or 7 million barrels of condensate. So with Canada, they reach, about 25 million barrels, which is 1 in every 4 barrels in the world. And that has dramatically changed and here you can see the US has become a net exporter of oil, of liquids, which is unbelievable if you think about how much it was importing in the past and basically was not exporting almost anything. One factoid that I was impressed, I got this in Twitter, and I had to check it out because I thought this couldn't be right, is that New Mexico produces more than Venezuela and Mexico. You know, when I arrived here in the US, New Mexico, I didn't have New Mexico in the radar as an oil producer. You know, it was like, you know, I know that they have some things close to Texas and they produce a little bit of oil. Well, these guys now produce more oil than Mexico, and not the new Mexico, but the old Mexico. And they don't even have offshore, which is where most of the oil is produced in Mexico, right? So pretty impressive what happened in the United States. And it has a lot to do, of course, with a lot of the institutions of this country, the access to capital, the property rights. You know, this is the only country in the world with private mineral rights. So it's a very special jurisdiction. I will not go into a lot of the details here, but Latin America now has actually a pretty positive outlook, and production has been going up, as you will see here. For the first time in a long time, production has been going up. Notice that this is the era in which Latin America grew, which was from 1965 to about 2004, was mostly Venezuela and Mexico. You know, Venezuela had their ups and downs, but now it's a completely different set of actors, particularly Brazil and Guyana. But the outlook for the South American oil industry is amazing. I mean, there is you know, projections is that $400 billion are going to be invested in the next 5 years in the South America oil and gas industry. That Latin America will be the place where most barrels will be added, and it will be concentrated in the countries that I mentioned. Actually, Mexico continues to go down. Ecuador and Colombia are going to likely stagnate or go down. So the growth is going to be in the other countries that I mentioned. And of course, there have been additional geopolitical changes to the one that is happening right now with the crisis, not only the Middle East, of course, also Russia. Remember, another huge player is Russia and Kazakhstan and Azerbaijan on the gas side, and those are also part of these geopolitical conflicts. For example, Kazakhstan gets their oil through Russia outside to the world. The Russians, of course, give priority to their own oil, for example. And of course, also the focus of the US in Latin America today is a major change. You know, it had been happening for a while that the US was more interested in Latin America, first because they were concerned about the Chinese getting very involved in Latin America, but second, because of this new world in which it's clear that controlling some resources could be really important because, you know, it's a geopolitical factor like critical minerals and even energy. But the Trump administration in this second edition has, for the first time, put as their main sort of national security objective, you know, the Western Hemisphere is their main. I don't know if this will be sustained because what's happening in the Middle East is reminding them how impactful the Middle East can be. But of course, what happened in Venezuela was a major example of the much more aggressive role that the United States is willing to play in the region. And notice here that the Western Hemisphere is getting back to become a very significant player. And so, because notice, the US plus Canada, they will continue to grow, probably not as fast as they were growing. And then you have South America growing. So that means that the Western Hemisphere is getting back to become the dominant producer. You know, the Western Hemisphere used to produce about almost half of the world oil when Venezuela, Mexico, and the US were producing at peak levels. And so I already showed you this. This is Rystad forecast. I think I'm more optimistic than Rystad in some of these figures, but you can see that the leaders are, in terms of growth, Brazil, Guyana, Argentina, and Venezuela, and the decline in some of the other countries. And going to Venezuela, to the case of Venezuela, most of you know about the Venezuelan case. I will not go into the detail here, but oil production in Venezuela figure is sort of a little bit of a roller coaster, right? It was a story of massive success from the 1920s, but much more accelerated after the Second World War because of the 1943 law that gave a long-term horizon to companies, and basically Shell and Exxon were the 80% of the oil was being produced by these two companies. But then a combination of nationalistic policies, Venezuela decided not to give any more concessions, not to renew the concessions as they were supposed to be renewed in 1962, and it dramatically increased the taxes. And more importantly, I would say, it's not only that Venezuela increased the taxes, it's that they make them discretionary, meaning that the government could change the taxes every year, the executive, the president. And that, of course, is something that in the oil industry is a very risky thing, because you are doing long-term investments, and if a government cannot guarantee you the fiscal regime, that is a recipe for declining investment. And that's what happened in the 1960s, and then Venezuela's production collapsed in 1970. This is before the nationalization. Most Venezuelans believe that production collapsed because of the nationalization. No, the roots are much earlier than the nationalization. In fact, the nationalization, PDVSA did invest a lot at the beginning, but they had the OPEC quotas, as you can see there. And it wasn't until Saudi Arabia removed the OPEC quotas in 1986 that Venezuela couldn't take advantage of their not only spare capacity, but potential that PDVSA had invested in adding reserves, that they could do it. But PDVSA didn't have the money or the technology, so they brought in partners, and that was the famous Apertura Petrolera that added 1.1 million barrels of capacity. Sadly, that benefited the next guy, who was Hugo Chavez, who had the double luck, amazing luck. The guy not only had 1.1 million barrels of additional capacity that almost all came into fruition when he was in power. Only about 300,000 barrels had been already in line before. But on top of that, he had received the most significant increase in the price of oil in history. So he had the largest windfall in the history of Latin America on the price side, and on top of that, had these additional barrels coming from the... And so the country didn't notice that he had destroyed the national oil company. Are those my 5 minutes?
Yes.
No. Huh? Okay. And so bottom line, he was able to destroy the national oil company without, sadly, nobody in the country really understanding what had happened. To give you an idea, I don't think I have it here, but PDVSA today in their own field is producing about 260,000 barrels of oil in their gestión propia, in their own. PDVSA produced 3 million barrels in their own fields without any partner when Chavez came to power. So they are producing less than 10% of what they produce. So the collapse of PDVSA is the biggest source of the destruction of the Venezuelan industry. On top of that, Mr. Chavez, of course, partially nationalized the sector, reneged on, did a forced renegotiation of contracts. Exxon and Conoco, which were two of the biggest players, Conoco was the largest player in Venezuela, left the country. So there were other impactful things that they did to the private sector. But even with all those bad things that they did and continued to do until yesterday to the private oil investors, the private oil investors did better than PDVSA in this period. And so, but production is increasing in the 23 and 24, the years 23 and 24, most of the growth was Chevron. But of course, now after the blockade and all that happened in the past few months, production is getting back to about 1 million barrels, which is pretty low, of course, for Venezuela and historical standards, but it's a important increase from the depths of COVID and before the Chevron license was in. Just to give you a sort of a X-ray of how production is divided today in Venezuela, we don't have exact data about the so-called CPPs, which are the new types of contracts that Delcy Rodriguez and Maduro gave the last 2 years, that they said that they were 13, then 21, then 31, and now the other day they said that they were 29. So the opaqueness of this is absolutely crazy. A lot of these contracts were given to cronies of the regime and to allied, countries that are allied to the government. But they are producing about 21% of Venezuela's production today, concentrated on basically a few of these contracts that are in the hands of people that, let's put it this way, the US government probably wouldn't want to give a license to. So the question is, how are you going to move all those contracts that are already assigned to the type of operators that not only the US, but the future of Venezuela needs? The other thing is that you have the Russians and the Chinese have 21% of Venezuela's production. So 21 plus 21, 42% of Venezuela's production is in the, let's call them, wrong hands, no? And this is the current production, but the potential increase in production is even bigger in those fields, no? And then, of course, you have Chevron, which is the big formal company in the room, and about 7% the European companies, basically Repsol, Morel and Prom, and a tiny bit Eni. So this is one of the main issues now. How are we going to get the Russian, the Chinese, and these other contracts into a different type of framework? Venezuela, I will not go into detail here because we don't have time, but Venezuela has, the largest reserves in the world is not an accurate thing in that it will never be, Venezuela will not pass an audit done like the SEC would require, but the resource base of extra heavy is humongous. Basically, it's infinite for the purposes of the next 3 or 4 decades. So that's not the issue. The issue is about above ground risks and we have also plenty of conventional oil. If you look at Venezuela's mature fields in conventional, they still have tons of resources compared to any other country in the region. And so here are sort of some scenarios just to analyze, right? This is not a prediction. The top one is exercise in theoretical exercise. Imagine that Venezuela's oil magically is moved to Texas. And so you have no capital constraints, no human resource constraint, no political risk, et cetera, et cetera. Venezuela's resource base could lead to, in 10 years, 6 million barrels of oil production. But of course, that's not going to happen, right? That's a theoretical. But just to give you an idea of the potential just about resource base. Then you have, this is the plan that the Venezuelan opposition, a team led by Juan Sabo, former vice president of PDVSA, Exploration and Production, and other experts did, which is a program to increase to add 3 million barrels in the next 10 years. And that will require $120 billion. Then you have, the bottom one is sort of the status quo scenario, in which production does go up in the next few years because of the brownfields, the projects that have already the infrastructure and they're the low-hanging fruit, sort of the mango bajito in Venezuelan terms. And then the other one is sort of a scenario that incorporates sort of the history of Venezuela. Venezuela has never grown for a period of 5 years more than 180,000 barrels per year in a period of 5 years. And so I am incorporating here this one as a more realistic, sort of politically constrained scenario. And so to finish, just to show you 2 other scenarios. One is Rystad, the consultancy. They had a scenario of declining production after Maduro, before Maduro was taken out. They now have an actually significant increase in production, but much more modest. Think about this. This is to 2040. So in 15 years, they are saying that we're going to be producing 3 million barrels. So it will take 15 years, according to Rystad, to get back to a production that is less than what Chavez got when he got into power. And also, they say that the investment required will be even bigger than the plan of the Venezuelan opposition. And to notice something very interesting. The first barrels are easy. in terms of investment because of, as I mentioned, brownfields. They have already the infrastructure there. There is some spare infrastructure. These are fields that are already developed. But as you move to later in production, you need this massive investment in new infrastructure and in greenfields, and that costs tons of money. And nobody will do that investment with the current regime in power or with the current sort of political situation. And this is a similar thing, less optimistic even by Woodmark, right? And so to just summarize and finish, Venezuela, a lot of things have happened, and Venezuela is going to be able to increase production in the next, I think this year is going to be about 150,000 barrels, and probably next year a little bit more. But for now, what you will get is basically what Chevron and Repsol and Morel and Prom are going to do. That's the first stage. And there are tons of things that you need to solve before you get to the next stage. First, as I mentioned, 40-something% of the production is in the wrong hands. Second, you need a reglamento of the law, and you need a new model contract. And frankly, you need a perspective of what's going to happen in the on the political side in terms of political transition, et cetera. Without long-term, stability, it's very hard for this to happen. I am a little bit concerned that some people think that because U.S. licenses say that it has to be an American company registered in the U.S. that has some history, that the contracts have to be domiciled in the U.S. and that arbitration is in the U.S., that will be enough to get the credibility. But that's not enough. In the long term, you need institutions domestically. You need a good law. You need a good regulatory agency. You need a oil company that functions. And so I am cautiously optimistic, but I think there is a long ways to go to get to the potential that Venezuela has. But the opportunity is probably better than it has been in a long while. And if we don't take advantage of it, it will be a massive wasted opportunity. And at worst, we could get something like the Russian privatization, in which the assets get in the really wrong hands. And what we have is actually the opposite of a great opportunity, but a really bad outcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Francisco. I think, we need to talk in about, I don't know, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, just to answer and, just for Q&A. I mean, because probably all of you will be having tonight and tomorrow morning, at the shower times, more and more questions. So I think you have a day with us soon, or you will have. So, well, right now I would like to introduce and present Nacho Torres. Nacho is an entrepreneur. He runs trader commodity company, and for other hand, he's the owner of 2 of the best restaurant in Houston, MAD and BCN. So Spanish food. And I was told that you are related with Venezuela. Well, you will talk about that with us soon. I mean, just that. So he asked me to.
What's going on? The Gwynn's family is coming to Houston, and we have a very purchaser. Nice. Why? To visit our great city. And other people have spread stuff or spread like Nacho. For serving gelato? Not only Nacho and Isabel doing more than gelato. So what's their story? It's their heritage, and Nacho's parents can explain.
Nacho was the second of our 7 kids, born in Barcelona, grew up in Spain with his strong ideals. The values of hard work and purpose were taught by example.
He was a cool kid, a handful. Some things never change.
Other things do change.
In 1982, the family moved to Brazil. There, he met Isabel, his partner for life.
Soon after, I was diagnosed with ALS and Carmen with cancer. Parenting together.
In 1990, they moved to Houston.
And here's where you started Tricon?
Yes, now you can explain.
Of course, in 1996, he founded Tricon Energy, which today is the second largest chemical trading and distribution company in the world. And because no joy is complete without sharing, Tricon Care was created to support worthy causes.
My parents credit his success to the character formation that has happened, but it was reinforced in the Opus Dei schools in state.
For this reason, IESA and Nacho have promoted the opening of faith-based liberal arts schools in Houston, Magnolia School for Girls and Western Academy for boys. And next will be LA in 2024.
Yeah, that's him. You know, he was born in Spain. Los abuelos me.
This message is that all people are called to sanctify by doing our job well for God's glory, and always with joy, always happy.
What's the music? It's the other one singing. Really? Let's hear him sing.
My other abuelo, Gavino, immigrated to Mexico during the Civil War, and he loved to sing, had a great sense of humor, and a very positive attitude. He always said, "Las penas se quitan cantando."
Hola, Ana.
Hey, Isa and Corey.
She's calling you right now.
Hello, girls.
Hi, Corey. How are you? We just wanted to know a little bit about our parents' contribution to the Houston Grand Opera.
Oh, they're amazing patrons and supporters of our Spanish programming here at HGO. They supported both seasons of Suite Española featuring Ana Maria Martinez, and of course, they were generous underwriters of the HGO mariachi operas as well.
And is it true that you gave him singing lessons?
Yes, for Isa's wedding. Hey, how did that end up filming?
Alvarito, how did el abuelo sing?
Well, he's as good a singer as he is a chef. Ask please your chef.
With Nacho, we only have one compromise: Spanish 100% and quality of both at any cost. That's why we give him our kitchen.
What do you think? You'll get it right?
Terrific, but I think we're missing the most important part. Right.
Anything else?
I'm not sure. Let's ask Nacho's parents.
Per cas de futbol, no s'han demanarà. Felicitats per aquest premi. Bon treball. I ara seguim. La vida és viu fins al final.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the, do we have a mic or no?
Let me see.
You are.
One second.
Well, thank you. This video we prepared because 2 years ago, the Queen of Spain, Queen Sofia, came to Houston and gave an award for the for the excellence for promotion of Spanish values, and they choose me, and of course, who is Nacho? So I need to have a video to explain who is Nacho. The interesting thing is that they choose me to for his promotion of Spanish value for a restaurant, which is cool. It's okay. It's and then we need to find what else have we done to promote Spanish value. With the Houston Opera, we have pretty much supported and everything related with operas, Spanish operas, zarzuelas, Spanish performance. We're from Barcelona. I went to an Opus Dei school, so we have been very supportive of the Opus Dei school, Opus Dei formation here in the Magnolia and Western Academy. I don't know if you're familiar with those two schools, doing extremely well, very good schools. But funny enough, I was kicked out from the Opus Dei school in Barcelona. I never finished college, and I also never finished IESA. I did IESA, I never finished. So I'm not a good example when it comes into formation
of the academic formation in that point of view. And I'm saying it's kind of funny because the reason we've been here, we are here in Houston, and the reason that allows us to open the restaurants and allow us to finance the school is the trading company, is Tricon Energy. Today, Tricon Energy is the largest privately held company in Houston. We do about $15 billion in revenues. We are the second largest distribution company in the world. And yeah, we started 30 years ago. 2 weeks ago, we just turned 30 years. But if you have a restaurant, the trading company is not even coming close. Everyone knows us because of the restaurant, which has a lot of similarity. And I will try to explain you why a trading company and a restaurant and the next thing that we're doing, the purpose, and I will tell you a little bit about it at the end of it, has some relevance and has some similarity. I used to work for another company called Brentag, which is a large distribution, today #1. So we are #2, they are #1. And I used to be a buyer for some of the commodities, caustic soda in that sense. When people ask, what is the basic chemicals, I will say, look, there used to be a commercial from BASF, used to be a picture like this. And the commercial says, we don't make anything that you see, we make everything that you see better. And this is the raw materials, basic chemicals that we do. And at the end of the day, there are more than 30,000 different products on the basic chemicals. But those 30,000 different products go back to about 25 products, which are the basic chemicals. So products like aromatics, chloralkalis, olefins. Boring, if you don't know being on that kind of field, is kind of boring, but they are, without those, you will not have the finished good to make the fibers, to make the plastic, to make the carpets, to make the housing, the paintings, etc. When we started the business, we realized that we had 7 value propositions in terms of what we into the business. We provide a logistic solution, we provide a finance, a market intelligence, a risk management, a distribution, a technical support, and a sustainability. And we put sustainability in parentheses because today, especially in the last few years, it's been a little bit of a debate in terms of the sustainability agenda in C. Do we have really a sustainability agenda, or is it just when we have good money, the sustainability agenda? We think that if we can be the best one in each one of those points, we can enter a second goal, which is to be the biggest. And why is it important to be the biggest in our field? For 3 reasons. First reason is ego. It's always good to have a purpose and a team that is trying to be the best. I'm from Barcelona, I know about it. When you talk about football, soccer, to be the best is something that drives you always to excellence. The second thing is because we need economy of scale, which is very important in our business. And the third one, because in the trading world, the important thing is not the ability to predict, but the ability to react. So if I will tell you tomorrow that the copper price or some commodity price is going to be moving in a certain direction in a certain part of the world, that might be totally irrelevant if you don't have an ability to monetize that information. If you don't have the credit lines, if you don't have the logistic hubs, you don't have the relationship with the clients, etc. For that is very, very important to be quite big. If we can be the biggest one, then we can be the most profitable. In order to do that, the way that we structure the company, the way we organize the company, is an extremely flat organization. I was telling you at the beginning, we have 23 business lines or business unit. One of the business line is caustic soda. If you know anything about caustic soda, it's a product that is used to make, together with the bauxite, alumina, and then makes aluminum. They use it with the pulp, with the wood, makes the pulp, and then becomes the paper. Another business line that we have is polyethylene, which is raw materials in order to make the plastic bags, in order to make the tops of the plastic cups, etc. Another business line we have is paraxylene, which paraxylene together with glycols make PTA, together with citric acid make PTA, together with glycol makes PET, and the PET makes for the Coca-Cola bottles. So which one we have those 23 business lines. Besides the 23 business lines, we have regional managers, and we have each one of the 7 service managers as well. So between these 23 leaders of products, between the service managers and between the regional managers, which is about 47, 48 people, and myself, there is no one. There is absolutely no one in between the second range of the company. We have we define the management or style of the company with 2 sets of values. In one hand is freedom and independence, and the other one is accountability and responsibility. We give the other pound, we have clear guidance in terms of what to do and not to do. Well, we give a lot of freedom to the management of the companies to do that. The outcome, the results, is extremely huge growth of the companies, and it's been very profitable. At the same time, because the business manager, the business leaders, each one of those business units tend to generate very solid profitability. We can compensate extremely well, and that generated a circle of virtues which led the company to be what we are today. How do we copy that on the restaurants? Exactly the same thing. In the restaurant business, I was talking to you that on the trading business, we have the 7 value propositions: logistics, finance, risk management, market intelligence. On the restaurant business, it's three values: is food, service, and ambience. If you go to Open Table and you make a reservation, and the day after the reservation, they're going to send, and they are going to ask you to vote those three points. What is your 1 to 5, your opinion in value, your opinion in food, your opinion on service, and your opinion on ambience. And then there's a fourth one, which is value. Right? And value is a combination of your experience with the price. And every week we follow, not only us, but every other restaurant that somehow we feel is on the same field. We follow them. How do we compare our food ranking versus the food rating of the other companies? How do we compare our service and our ambience of the restaurants versus the other companies? And we always on the top. If not number one, we are top. And if we are not number one, every critic that we get, we answer. Anytime that we get a critic that is not a 5, you will get an answer. By the way, if you want to have a free dinner at BCN, make a complaint. We're gonna make sure that you come back next day, because we're gonna make a point to and we usually, you know, one of the good things that you have in the restaurant business is the tips. It's not mandatory unless you're more than 5, and you automatically know. If someone doesn't give you a tip of 20%, you know something went wrong, and automatically you know what happened with the clients. Usually has to do more or less with the business. Maybe the girlfriend was not happy than what with us, but you know, sometimes we make mistakes. Sometimes things happen. When it comes into value, by the way, we are not ranking too good. We're expensive, but that's okay. We can afford that. We don't mind it. So if you have the same purpose, on the same focus in terms of excellence on the restaurants, you have the same purpose and excellence in the trading company, you give a lot of freedom and independence. You give a lot of purpose to the team. The outcome is this: Tricon number 2 in the world, soon in a couple of years, number 1, largest publicly held company in the business. BCN, first Michelin star in Houston. Cool, eh? That's not bad. Yeah. By the way, I need to clarify, we're the first one, because when Michelin came here 2 years ago, which, by the way, the reason Michelin came here, I don't know how many of you are from Europe, but the state of Texas paid Michelin $3 million to come to Texas in order to do the ranking. And this is a beautiful thing about this country. The PPP, the public-private partnership is very strong. So you go to the restaurants didn't ask them, but the states thought, and so it's not the states, sorry, 5 cities: Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, and Waco, which Waco didn't get any Michelin star. But they got together and they decided to put together the $3 million for the next 5 years to have the survey, or to have the critics to come and judge how this is. And when they did the judgment and they gave the stars, you don't know when they come, you have not a clue. The award of the stars goes alphabetically. So it's always good to have BCN and so we're going to be claiming for eternity that we're the first one in Houston. We're not the first one in Texas. There's one in San Antonio that I think is with an A. But we found out that if you have the same business model, the same economic model, same management model that you have in a restaurant business with 25 or 28 employees doing $4 or $5 million in revenue, and 1,000 employees doing $15 billion in revenues, and extremely well compensated people. You have the same concept, the same business lines, and the same kind of purpose to be the best, to be number 1, to be better than anyone else, not because it's bad to be better than anyone else. I used to use the example of the person that broke the first 100-meter dash, but I don't know if you guys are in track and field, but last Sunday was a big day on track and field, because first time in the history, someone broke the 2 hours marathon, which was kind of a big benchmark on the 2 hours marathon. Never before anyone had broke the 2 hours. So I'm going to be using from now on the example because it's more recent. And when the guy finished, and by the way, 2 guys broke the 2 hours the same day. It's kind of sad that the second guy that broke the 2 hours only got silver. But when they asked him, what did you prepare? What was your strategy? What you thought? Did you eat something different? And I said, dude, I just tried to run faster than him. And sometimes being the competition, look at the competition as a way to improve, as a way to be better is something unique. I always like to say, and my kids make fun of me, that every time I try to make a sentence with a little bit of relevance, I say Mother Teresa said. But that one, I think I always say that Mother Teresa said that the important thing in life is know what you do what happens to you, but what do you do with what happens to you? And the other sentence that I say, she says that the essence of happiness, or the essence, she says, the essence of holiness, is to do ordinary things on an extraordinary way for a great purpose. Okay, this is the American dream. I guess a lot of us have been coming from outside. And the American dream is not only in America. You can have the American dream in Spain and Venezuela and so many different countries, but the fact that we need to recognize it's an extremely generous country when you put the time and you work hard. We've been successful, very, very successful for many, many fronts. And as you saw on the video for the Queen, there is a lot of neurodiverse people on that video because we have 3 restaurants. The third one is Rocambolesque, which is an ice cream concept with the Roca brothers. For those who are not familiar with the Roca brothers, are 3 chefs, 3 brothers from Girona, a city north of Barcelona, where the youngest chef, Jordi, is a bit of a crazy lunatic, but extremely, extremely creative and fascinating human being when it comes into creation of ice creams. And we decided to create together what's something that in the US is called PBC, Public Benefit Corporation. For those who are not familiar, a PBC is when you have a corporation with an objective to make money, but they have a purpose. A good example is Patagonia, the brand of clothes. Patagonia has the mission of reduction of synthetic fibers. We are not happy with that, but okay, that's something that you have to live. And that's, in our case, in the ice cream concept, our mission is inclusion for people with neurodiverse. I have another video. Maybe we can pass. No, hold me one second. Let me tell you, and then I will tell you about where we're going. So we did this joint venture with the Roca brothers. We have the ice cream. Here we have Jordi creating these 3 Michelin star ice cream, super sophisticated with foams and all kind of things. And we learned a couple of lessons. One is ice cream is not a destination product, it's an impulse product. So you need to make sure that wherever you have the ice cream, people is driving in front of you, otherwise they're not gonna come and buy your ice cream. Second, the Roca brothers are very famous in Spain, but here, they don't know them that much. But we say in one of the mantras that we have in the family is that life is not about winning or losing, it's about winning or learning. Just make sure you don't run out of working capital. If you have working capital, you find a solution for it. Unfortunately, we don't sell ice creams. Damn it. Here we have a beautiful concept, absolutely gorgeous shop. You come inside, wow, you really want to eat it. But we don't sell, we don't make enough business in order to sustain we don't sell enough in order to sustain the business. But the fact that we have the mission of inclusion, of providing jobs for people in neurodiverse, so we have 5 employees with Down syndrome and autism, and we give about 20 other people training on the ice cream manufacture on a daily basis, dive us into the reality of the neurodiverse people in this country. By the way, the reason we decided to get into this agenda, into this mission, is because we have 2 godsons on the spectrum, on the autism spectrum. One is the son of my best friend here in Houston, and the other one is the youngest son of my youngest brother in Spain, nephew number 35 in Spain. And if you talk to anyone who has a son or a daughter in the spectrum or the neurodiverse, especially in the IDD area, there is always 2 big concerns that they tend to have. One is what is going to happen tomorrow? We're not here. And thanks God, we live in countries here, Spain or Europe, that they will be taken care of financially. But what about emotionally? Who's going to be there for them or for him or for she emotionally? And the second point is, can he or she have a purpose, can have a job, can be meaningful, and the answer is yes, they can have a purpose, definitely can have a purpose. What is going to happen after they are not here? Yeah, there's a little bit more challenge. It's always going to be a worry. Yeah, it's a worry even, I guess, for normal people, but definitely we can improve, and we can improve dramatically. With that idea in mind, we start getting deep into the agenda of neurodiverse. And I was talking to you before that in the sustainability agenda, and we have this question mark, are we really into the sustainability agenda? Last 2 years, the virgin polymers were very cheap. Everyone was scrapping the agenda of trying to transform into scraps. But we decided to get together with World Cup 2026, and our team leads the Sustainability Committee for FIFA World Cup 2026 City of Houston. We thought, look, if you want to make an impact, if you want to change some of the behaviors that we have, there is not a better platform than the World Cup. The Olympics has 1 billion followers. The World Cup has 5 billion followers. you have any doubts, remember what happened in the Olympics opening ceremony, how debate was about the dinner, the sub dinner. I'm not gonna get into the politically opinion of that, but definitely you trigger a lot of debate, a lot of discussions. And if we want to improve sustainability, if we want to improve recycle, if we want to improve, there is not a better opportunity than the World Cup. Keep in mind that when it comes into recycle, in Europe, we're a little bit about 40%. In the US, we're a little bit below 20%. In Texas, we're at 6%. We don't recycle. But one of the ways, and you probably remember that one of the ways to use campaigns, to use propaganda, is what happened when we arrived here. I don't know if you remember that famous campaign, Don't Mess with Texas. That campaign, Don't Mess with Texas, was about littering. And you talk to your kid, what, you did what? Yeah, we open the window, we throw the Coca-Cola out, and you close the window. You have that 352 coming behind you, don't mess with Texas. That was the essence. So we had a great opportunity. So we came with the idea, what about if we organize a World Cup for neurodiverse people? Similar thing to Special Olympics. What about if we do something identical, but using football, soccer, instead of using the Special Olympics? And the idea was born 2 years ago. We came to Rice, Ray and Paulo, offer us the facilities. In 2024, we have 12 teams representing 4 different countries, and it's magical. If any one of you been around neurodiverse people, Down syndrome, autism, cerebral palsy, it's just magic on steroids. Absolutely incredible. Okay, that's cool. We have 12 teams. 2025, we decided to increase, and our goal was to have 25 teams. And from 20 countries. We ended up managing 22 countries, and we had 38 teams. And this is a video I want to show you. And now I'm going to tell you what is going to happen this year. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit. Okay, right. Ahí está baja abajo.
This one.
Yeah.
In my beloved Texas, 38 teams from 22 countries got together for a week of soccer with one goal: to promote a more inclusive. To ensure that our families with intellectual and developmental disabilities have equal opportunities to thrive is at the heart of our mission and vision.
You give person with IDD a chance for independence, for growth, for freedom, for choice.
That diverse inclusion is not talking the talk, but it's walking the walk. It's not just about creating opportunities, but also about leading the way.
It's up to us as FIFA, as other organizations, as US Soccer, to continue to evolve, to make sure that we really are serving the needs of people with all kinds of disabilities.
The bottom line is that we need to create more accurate data for better access to resources, opportunities, and quality. At the World Cup, soccer is our stage, where we shine a light on the needs of the neurodiverse community, and with genuine connect, we take it further. One extra step, one extra effort, and the impact is so worth it. Inclusion is a team effort. Get ready for a bigger, better, and more inclusive tournament next year.
See you in 2026.
So that was super cool. And by the way, this happens many reasons, but the first and the biggest one, thanks to Rice. If it wasn't because Rice hospitality and generosity, by the way, since Rice is a non-for-profit, they had to charge us, and they get charges for the 1,000 rooms $1 a night. So that's the kind of philanthropy and generosity you have here. We brought 38 teams last year: Paris Saint-Germain, Bayer Leverkusen, Manchester United, Barça, Boca Juniors, Corinthians, FC Seoul from Korea, Yokohama Mariners from Japan, Australia, and it was absolutely incredible. The opportunity was unique. Of course, we have a soccer tournament. It's cool, it's fun, it's nice, but you know, we spend a lot of money and a lot of time for a week of making these athletes having a great time. And with that reason, we partner with the Kinder Institute for Urban Studies. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but Houston has the privilege of having the best Center for Studies of City Studies, is how to improve the quality of the city. And we partner with them in order to get data, to do research. One of the biggest challenges we have with neurodiverse community is lack of information, lack of data. And if we want to improve the agenda of inclusion, we need to policy making. And in order to do policy making, you need to have information and data. The second point we want to do is employability. How do we make sure that we employ the people, and why do we need to employ the people? One of them, of course, is because they're going to be very loyal. That's okay. But the second point, which is a big thing in the organization, is you're going to humanize your organization. It's going to make you human. And a good example is what happened with us in FIFA. We're having a meeting. Originally, it was called the Genuine World Cup. And FIFA, and we're trying to register the brand, and FIFA sued us back. Okay, here we're trying to do something we think is good. And you know, they're kind of right. We're trying to do our way. The World Cup is a trade brand, it's a brand of FIFA. And then we have a big meeting with a bunch of attorneys from FIFA. And it's myself and a pro bono attorney working for us here in Houston. We're meeting with them. And the head guy, or it was a head lady from Madrid, is telling me, Nacho, you cannot use that name. And at the same time, her counterpart was in Miami, said, Nacho, but just do the tournament. I said, okay, what about if we call it Genuine World Genuine Cup? And the lady, no, you cannot use that. It's forbidden. We're going to sue you if you do. Okay. And the guy says, but do the tournament. Don't worry about the name. Okay. What about we call it Genuine Cup World? The lady will say, no, you cannot do it. We're going to sue you. And the guy said, but keep doing it. I said, dude, you really get on my nerves. You're blocking me anything that I'm trying to do. And you're telling me to keep doing the tournament. Can you guys get together? And the guy says, look, Nacho, you cannot use anything with the World Cup. You want to use it, you have to register. It's going to take several years. We have the World Cup coming in. We cannot do it. I have a daughter with Down syndrome. Please do the tournament. And then you can see that there's really a mission out there that we can put it together. When we decided to do the campaign for this year, okay, what is we going to be doing? We're going to have the World Cup. And after the World Cup, a week after the World Cup, what kind of a tournament we want to do it, and what kind of Genuine Connecting the site is going to do. And I will tell you now what is Genuine Connect. And we decided to bring 50 teams from 50 different countries. And why 50? Because FIFA has 48. So we're gonna prove to them that we can do it. Not prove to them. We have nothing to prove to them, but we're gonna prove to you that we can do. And for the neurodiverse people, we're gonna do a little bit better. By the way, we have 57 teams now. We have 57 teams confirmed from 57 different countries. Peru, Panama, Costa Rica, Andorra, Bangladesh. I didn't even know they play soccer in Bangladesh. So we have a team from Bangladesh. We have Latvia. We have Marshall Island. I couldn't even find them on the map. What is Marshall Island? We have 57 teams confirmed coming into here. Cross the finger, pray that we get the visas for everyone. We decided to go a little bit over because we're having issues with visa. We had Israel. Israel had to cancel 2 days ago because they were concerned that we were going to have 20 players here with Down syndrome and autism. The airport gets closed, they cannot go back. And by the way, Israel was helping us to get Palestine. So we had the two teams coming into here because the agenda of inclusion, the agenda of neurodiverse has no party, has no religions, has no color. Everyone is for the agenda of inclusion. So between July 27 and August 2nd, we're going to have a World Cup for neurodiverse people here in Rice. We're going to have, everyone is going to be staying here, and we need your support. First, we need sponsors. The tournament is going to cost about $3 million, and we want to make sure that we convince brands to be part of this. We have United already confirmed. We have HEV. We have United, HEB, Wells Fargo, Bank of America. We have so many Texas Children, the Methodists. We have so many brands helping us, but we still need more sponsors so we can do it. Is everything we need is volunteers. A lot of volunteers. We're expecting about 600-700 volunteers, 700 volunteers. And then we need what we call ambassadors volunteers, people that might speak the language of the country, but they're going to be available almost 24/7. For some of us, it's difficult. Maybe your son's a high school or a college kid. That week is absolutely magical per se. And the last thing we need is hosts. We want that each one of the teams, one night, one afternoon, spends the time with a family, local family. The Venezuela team with a Venezuela family. Hopefully the Colombia team from a Colombia family. The Argentina team with an Argentinian family. And that you can invite other Argentinians, other Venezuelans, other Colombians, and host them for one evening. Get to know them. Tell them about the value that it means they're representing the colors of your country, and vice versa. Learn about what is happening in the country with the diverse agenda, what is the situation in each one of those countries with the Down syndrome and autism per se. So if you need my contact, we can give you my contact later on. We need your support. We need you be part of it. Help us spread the word. Help us to come to the final. It's going to be in August, Saturday, August 1st or 2nd, I remember. It's on that Saturday. Come to the final. Let's fill up that stadium. Let's have a great time. Bring your kids, bring your family. It will be a great opportunity to do a great cause. It's a great legacy that we can have for U.S. soccer. I don't think U.S. is going to win the World Cup, but, but definitely it's going to happen. So thank you for the opportunity to address to all of you, and it's a privilege to be.
Who won last year?
So okay, that's okay. 2 years ago, who won was Barcelona, but last year. So the problem you have is or the challenge you have is the neurodiverse conditions are very different. So you have someone with what is called high function or low support autism. Those kids, they play amazing soccer, really high level soccer. And you have a team with Down syndrome. They have a different condition. So what we did last year, and that was cool. What we did last year is we have, and everyone wants to play against Boca Juniors, against Corinthians, against Barcelona. So first we did a round robin, and we did three matches. So if you won 7-0, we'll put you against someone else that won 7-0. If you lost, and somehow after 3 matches, we managed to create 5 levels of skills. And then we created 5 leagues. And we call each one of the leagues, we didn't call the best, the second, the third, we call them Bank of America, Texas Children, Wells Fargo, etc. And then each different leagues won. Boca Juniors had lost against Racing de Avellaneda during the previous matches, and it was a big pain, especially for Boca, by the way. Boca did not have a genuine team, and I got a call one day a few months before from the sport director sport director said, look, in the name of Juan Román Riquelme, I want to tell you that we are creating a sport. If you're into football and you're into Barça, Juan Román Riquelme, you stand up to take that call to listen what is he saying. And so Boca comes and they lose against Racing. Madonna. Those guys are not gonna. But then they go to the end of the leagues on different brackets, and Boca ended up winning his bracket. And today the trophy is on the en la vitrina de trofeos de Boca. They sent the bus with the Boca champions, so they went back from the airport to the stadium on the winner bus, and they did una vuelta olímpica, Olympic around to celebrate that. That was very amazing. But then we had the big winner, which was a vote, a referendum by all the coaches and players who they thought was the most inclusive team. Newcastle came on second, and the winner, and we have a movie, by the way, we can show. It's a 37-minute documentary, super cool. It was Bilbao, Athletic Bilbao, an amazing team, super inclusive, absolutely, really. It is absolutely worth it to spend a day just with these people. The values that they have, absolutely incredible. It's funny because we made a point not to call the best, the second, the third, but some people insisted. So the highest league was won by the Argentina national team. So we have 3 teams from Argentina. This year we're having only 1. And they put it on social media. We won the best tournament. I said, Fadi, no, you didn't win the World You won the Texas Children tournament. But I guess you can never take that away from. from the Argentinian. But it's really unique, and it's gonna be here in Rice. We're gonna take them to the NASA. We're taking them to Rodeo. Maybe we're waiting. Maybe we get the Globetrotters to come here to play one day. They're gonna get Houston hospitality at the best. They're gonna have a great time. Of course, we're taking them to the Galleria. That's the only place. Get us shopping. Okay, we get you. We get you shopping. Muy bien. Vale, gracias.
Well, thanks, Francisco, thanks, Nacho, thanks, Sonia, and thanks to you, all of you, to coming here. The last message, this is the first one that we are trying to do, so probably, I mean, you will be having news for us for the next event like this, probably in July or after summer. And then the last message, and I mean, we are trying to create a networking of alumni IESA chapter, Houston chapter. But another message from this kind of things is, if you are not alumni from IESA, but you are alumni from another institution, well, try to contribute with that institution. Just subscribe or register on your alumni associations, Universidad Metropolitana, Universidad Central, Universidad Católica, any university is a good one. Illinois, whatever, Duke, Penn State. So, I mean, you need to start, if you haven't done that, you need to at least register and pay the fee, okay? It's the least that you can do. Well, and thanks. And good night. And then on that door, we have a kind of a present for everybody, and just talk between you. Thanks again.